Recently, while organizing my paint bins, I came across my collection of Casein paints and realized that I haven't used them for several years. While I have used them to create some plein air paintings in the past, I haven't ventured far beyond this few landscapes. Considering how much money I spent on these paints, I wanted to bust them out again and see what it would be like to paint with them once more. Hello and welcome, my name is Jason, and today we're going to be creating this painting using Casein. Along the way, I'll be sharing some of my process, some stories, and some fun facts. So, without further ado, let's get started. The concept for this painting emerged as I began to imagine a world where my artwork could exist together. I noticed recurring motifs throughout my pieces and started to envision a fantastical connection between them, as if each painting was part of a larger narrative. To bring my idea to life, I first needed to invent a world where these stories could unfold. This process led me to create a cosmology for my artwork, a belief system about the origins and structure of the universe within my paintings. As I developed my idea, I started to look towards existing cosmology within cultural myths, before stumbling across the writing of fantasy author Terry Pratchett. In Terry Pratchett's Discworld series, the world is a flat disc-shaped planet balanced on the backs of 4 enormous elephants. These elephants, in turn, stand atop the shell of a giant celestial turtle, gliding through space. While the structure of Discworld itself was inspired by several real-world mythologies, I found this one to be particularly inspiring to the world I wanted to create. This led me to imagine if my world also lived on top of some sort of celestial creature. From there I started to sketch out my ideas, where I began to imagine a world that exists on the back of a giant whale shark. Unlike in Discworld's interpretation, I envisioned my world to be an infinitely nested series of planes of existence, all riding on the backs of different creatures. Researchers have, in some cases, uncovered a striking similarity between the structure of the universe and the structure of cells within our bodies. These parallels had led many to speculate that within all matter in the universe, there exists an infinite number of nested universes contained within cells. I personally find this to be both fascinating and terrifying, but above all inspiring to the story I wanted to create. In my story, much like the cell universe theory, each creature carries a world upon it, a realm where another creature resides, and so on in an infinite nesting of worlds. In this case, I've envisioned a reality where a whale shark serves as the host for the next nested world, while it, in turn, lives within the world of some unknown larger creature yet to be revealed. Perhaps the world atop the snail in the last video was itself a nested world, with some smaller creature carrying yet another world within it. And with that, I've crafted the cosmology behind my artwork, and completed the drawing for this piece. I'll leave some mystery for you to ponder about the how and why behind the rest of the imagery, particularly why and how this whale shark is being carried by this gray, long-eared bat, and what that means for this particular world. After completing the drawing, I moved on to the painting process. This is where I had the opportunity to give Casein paint another whirl after so long. Casein paint works very similar to gouache, being water-soluble and mostly opaque. I noticed even while the first colors are being applied that the whites aren't as punchy as with other mediums. This made it much harder to achieve brighter highlights later in the painting. Casein paint is one of the oldest known paint mediums, with records dating back as far as 49,000 years. Made from milk protein mixed with an alkaline substance like lime, it was used by Egyptians for tomb decorations, and later Byzantine and medieval artists for icon and manuscripts. In the 20th century, Casein gained popularity with illustrators and commercial artists for its quick drying, matte finish, and vibrant colors. It's prized for its versatility, allowing artists to layer like oils, or achieve flat, smooth effects similar to gouache. While Casein is still used throughout artist communities, its popularity has declined since the 1930s because of the production of acrylic paint, which has a nearly infinite shelf life, unlike Casein. For the most part, the medium definitely feels like gouache. I use the same process, working mostly from light to dark and using variegated washes when necessary. Overall, my process hasn't really changed between the mediums, which is a relief. However, the lack of tinting strength of the white will definitely become a problem with more usage. Mostly that it requires more paint to tint colors, leading me to have to replace the tube more frequently than with other mediums. This is a shame because white is already the most used color on my palette. The inspiration behind the scenery for this painting comes from some photographs I took while visiting Mount Baker a few years back. During the trip, I captured this photo of Lake Bagley with Table Mountain in the back. I've been wanting to paint this scene for a while now, and I figured this would be an exciting background for this painting, inviting additional intrigue and mystery with the dramatic clouds and lighting. During this point in the process, I started to introduce more saturated colors into my painting as the scene nears closer to the viewer, to simulate atmospheric perspective. I generally have no problem mixing my own colors on the palette, but every once in a while it's nice to have a color from the tube to speed up my process. These are often secondary or tertiary colors that could be made with primaries, but are easier to just buy from a tube. This is why I often call these cheat colors. While working on the foliage, I usually like to use a cheat color like sap green to speed up my process. However, the closest color they had within the selection of Casein paints was a cadmium green. Cadmium green, much like other cadmiums, is light fast, or less prone to discoloration with age. It is also quite opaque, which makes it a decent color for this painting. While it comes straight out of the tube very saturated, I had to dull it down with various colors to make it more of a natural tone. One thing I didn't know about this color before using it was that cadmium green stains everything. It was almost impossible to rinse out of the brush without soap, and it still stained the bristles. It even stained my palette. This made me really confused. How titanium white, which is usually a very high tinting strength color, could be overshadowed by a green. I'm definitely planning to retire this color from my palette though. After completing the scenery, I moved on to the whale shark. Despite its name, whale sharks are actually sharks. In particular, they're the largest non-cetacean animal in the world, or the largest animal that isn't a whale. Its unusual pattern on its skin is actually a really genius camouflage pattern. The bottom of its belly is white, so that it's disguised among the bright light of the sky when looking up. The spots and lines on its back also simulate caustic patterns underwater, or the patches and patterns of light that waves project onto the sea floor. Each shark has its own unique pattern, like a human's fingerprint. Unlike most sharks, whale sharks are filter feeders, using their large mouths to feed on plankton and small fish. Interestingly, sharks as a species have existed on Earth long before trees. The first trees grew approximately 350 million years ago, while the first ever sharks lived approximately 450 million years ago. With the whale shark complete, I turned my attention to the world atop its back. In my universe, these nested worlds vary in scale, ranging from galactic to regional and even smaller as seen in the toad and the snail painting from the last video. Each world holds an infinite possibility for what might come next. In this scene, the next world is a landscape featuring a towering mountain and glacier, whose meltwater flows into a river cascading off the whale shark's side, forming into a majestic waterfall that fills an alpine lake below. Finally, I moved on to the bat. This gray, long-eared bat is native to most of Europe. They mostly inhabit meadows and marshlands and use their large ears along with echolocation to hunt their prey. They produce sound waves at frequencies above human hearing called ultrasound. These sound waves bounce off of the environment and potential prey, and when received help them to navigate in the dark. This one in particular is helping the whale shark carry the burden of the world. And with all elements completed and the last finishing touches, I call this painting complete. I'm genuinely pleased with how this painting turned out. Casein has definitely earned a spot on a list of mediums to revisit in the future. While its drawbacks are overshadowed by mediums like oil and gouache, I think that it's still a valuable medium, especially for those who enjoy the feeling and the techniques of mediums like gouache. Overall, I had a really fun time with this project, and I hope you enjoyed watching it too. Thanks so much for sticking around, and I hope to see you in the next video.